Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United and Infernac Universe Deluxe class Magneous. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or a pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers on the side. We have the Legacy United logo at the bottom of the box with Infernac Universe Magneous in white text. We also have a really cool artwork shot of a Magneous in his rock car alt mode, and an open mode displaying the figure in the packaging. And if you do look at the top of the box, we have another Legacy United logo there as well. And as for the side of the packaging, we have two really cool artwork shots of Magneous in his robot mode. One more of a close-up of his head and chest, and one more of a wide shot of Magneous in a really cool battle pose with his weapons. And if we do look at the back of the box, the figure transforms in 10 steps. There's a product shot of him in his robot, his alt mode, and all of his pieces, and actually showing how he's actually compatible with other figures. You can actually armorize other figures with Magneous, which I think is a pretty fun playable feature. And if you do look at the final side, this is just half of the Legacy United artwork. So if you do get another deluxe from this Legacy United line, you can actually put both boxes together and complete the artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now get into the review. So here we have a Magneous in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. I did look at the really nice bright yellow eyes, very menacing and scary. And I actually do love how it kind of contrasts with the dark colors, because there's very few bright colors, and since really the only bright color is the eyes, they really just kind of stand out and pop out. And actually is a bit more scary and menacing if they had chose kind of a dark color, because it would really just blend in with the rest of the figure. But since it's yellow, it really just stands out, and again is very scary and menacing. But if we do look at the head sculpt, I love how it's just pretty much like one giant rock or boulder for the head. There's very little actual like facial features, really just the eyes. There's no like a mouth or nose, nothing. There's no ears. It's just like a rock with eyes, which actually is kind of cool. It's a bit scary that he has like no mouth. He's just like this rock creature or figure or alien. But I do love all the spikes at the top of the head. I think that's really well sculpted. And one major compliment I have to give this figure is that they didn't just repeat a ton of the same rock design and sculpting, over and over again. They could have easily just taken, one patch or one piece of rock and just repeat it for the arms, the legs, the head over and over and over again. But a lot of it is not similar. A lot of it is mixed matched. None of the pieces are actually identical or the same, which is very cool. But taking a look at the shoulder, there's some really nice kind of rock pieces and spikes here. And they actually did take a few design cues from the Kingdom line. There is a bit of texturing and kind of rough feeling on the figure. And I do like all the kind of gaps and crevices in the figure. We actually do have the front wheels from the car here, which I actually think is pretty cool how they ended up on the chest. And I do like how actually very thin and actually skinny his waist is. Kind of a skeletal, creepy skeleton design there, which is very cool. And I do love the crotch with the really cool kind of spikes and pieces sticking out to the side. And if you do want to look at the form there, overall that same kind of charcoal grayish black color, which I think is pretty cool. And I do like the change with the lighter shade of gray. I think it's good that the entire figure was not all that same, charcoal black color. We have some more pieces on the sides. These are actually the rear wheels there, which I think is pretty cool. And we do have the feet mostly done that dark blackish gray color. We actually have some really nice kind of panel venting detailing there. And if you do want to look at that side profile there, overall not looking too bad. I do have to say now you actually technically can remove the entire top car piece. It technically is considered one of his accessories, but I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be. I've seen several reviews and stock photos of this figure where he's just holding it in his hand. I guess it's supposed to be some sort of like shield, I guess, but he holds it very weirdly, so I don't really consider it a weapon or accessory because I always store at the back. But I just wanted to let you know, if you don't like that piece being there, if it looks too much of a backpack to you, you can technically remove it. And I have to say, if we do look at the back here, there's some really cool kind of rock panels on the back of the arms, which technically can move as well, but I'll kind of cover that and mention that in just a sec, not just yet. But I do love these really cool kind of spikes. I prefer to store them there. I just think it looks really cool. There's these huge spikes and pieces pieces coming off of him. Looks very dangerous and scary. He does have a bit of hollowness in the back of the legs, which can be fixed. Again, I'll kind of mention how you do that a little bit later, but overall, just an amazingly detailed figure, and I cannot wait for some future figures a part of this kind of gimmick subline. I love like a Voyager or a Leader, just like a huge rock creature. I think that would be so cool if they did that. But as for articulation, I think overall pretty good for a deluxe class figure. So starting at the head sculpt, it can slightly look up and down, and it can look left and right. On my copy, the ball joint is so tight, it's unbelievably tight. His head cannot tilt left or right, in case you're wondering. The arms can move forward and back. The arms can move out and in as well. There is a bicep rotation and elbow bends, and there is also a wrist rotation. The hand can actually also go in. That's mostly due to transformation though. And if we do move the arms out of the way, the waist can fully rotate. And if you're wondering about that backpack piece, the top car piece, even with that attached, that does not any way limit the waist rotation. Of course, the legs can kick forward and back, also out to the side. There is rotation at the top of the leg, a knee bend to a very good degree. That's mostly due to transformation because you actually do fold up the legs for the transformation. And the feet can pivot, and they can also actually pivot forward and back as well slightly. Again, mostly due to transformation. But let me just quickly straighten up the figure, and then we can cover his accessories. Let me just make him a bit more neat back into a neutral position. He looks a bit silly right now. And then we can give him his weapon. But there we go. So as for weapons, I guess I sort of already discussed one of the entire top of car roof piece. You can technically have him hold that. I really don't know why they did that. I would have been fine if it was just a permanent piece, because I don't think I'm ever going to take it off the figure, except of course for showing it for you guys. But it really serves no purpose. I really don't know why they did that. But as for his actual weapon, of course, here it is. It's this really cool kind of pickaxe crossbow. You actually can choose. I think this is a cool weapon. That being said, I think since it was supposed to be a crossbow, slash pickaxe, I think a small arrow would have been nice if it was like a separate piece, or if it was like a sculpted in arrow. I would have been fine with either. I mean, he only really does come with one weapon. He does come with that car piece, but as for weapons, he only comes with one, and he is a deluxe. Typically deluxes, I've seen, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 weapons and accessories with just deluxe class figures, so maybe just a small arrow he could hold or add it on to the piece would have been a good inclusion. I prefer to store it at as the pickaxe. I think it's my preference. Maybe I would have preferred the crossbow if it came with an arrow. I don't really know, but I actually do quite like this. I think that looks very, very cool. But that is pretty much it for accessories. Now I want to quickly show you how Magneous is customizable in his appearance. There's actually several panels and pieces you can actually swap around or move around if you would like to change up his appearance from the typical form. So one really good example is this entire panel here, or rock piece at the back of the arm. If you don't like it at the back of the arm, you might consider a kibble. It might get in the way of the pose you're trying to do. You can actually swap it or move it to the back of the leg, as I've shown here with the other piece. And there is some plus sides to moving it, because it actually does fill in all that empty space. There's a bit of hollowness there, and it's not the most pretty with the back of the leg. There's quite a few tabs, there's some pins there, but I do have to say, for transformation, these 2 rock pieces, or kind of spikes, do have to be placed at the back of the arms, because they do form the doors or the sides of the alt mode. 2 other panels you can move are actually the sides of the legs, these rear wheels of the alt mode. You technically can remove them. There's really no assigned spot to put them, because according to the instruction booklet, the way I just mentioned with these rock pieces, that is actually by Hasbro. They came up with that themselves. But in the instruction booklet, there is actually no mention of where you put the wheel pieces if you want to remove them. I guess maybe they just gave that option if you don't like seeing them on the legs. I don't really know. Maybe you can come up with your own way, or they could have put that there for like some future purpose. Like maybe it can like combine with another one of these figures that could be coming out soon in Legacy United Wave 2 or 3. But that is pretty much it for his customization options. Let's now get down to a few comparisons. Now, starting off our comparisons here, we have the Deluxe Class Magneous compared alongside the Deluxe Class Chase. And I think they look pretty cool side by side, and let me know in the comments of all 4 Deluxes from Legacy United Wave 1, which one is your favorite. But now for one final comparison, here he is with another Legacy United figure, that being the Legacy United Voyager class Thundertron, and his separate review is coming very soon on the channel. And I think they look pretty cool side by side, and that is pretty much it for comparisons. So now for transformation, I actually do transform this figure a bit different than how the instructions show. This is sort of just my own way I came up with. I actually do remove a few pieces in and out or throughout the transformation just to make it a bit easier, because there are a few steps and pieces that are a bit hard to show and do even when not recording. So if you don't like the way I did it, of course, you can just follow the instructions, or if you do, go right ahead. So what I like to do is just go to the back of the figure. I actually like to remove this entire backpack section here, just pop this off, and how this is tabbed into place is there is a post and of course a port right there, and that's how that was tabbed into place. You can then go to the hand. You're actually going to rotate at the wrist, and then there is a ball joint, and you're just going to hinge this entire section in like that. And the same way with the other one, just rotate at the wrist and use that ball joint and just swivel this entire section in. And here's one of the steps where you really don't have to do this. I just find it a bit easier. It actually helps things a little bit later in the transformation. I actually remove the arms. I do attach them a bit later on. Just for now, I think it's a bit easier, so I just remove them and put them off to the side. You can then go to the foot. You're just going to collapse this entire section on that hinge, and make sure this is fully pushed down, because there's actually quite a few hinges in this foot, this area right here, and sometimes you might think, oh, it's fully collapsed, but later on there'll be a gap there, so make sure that's fully compressed or compact against the leg. Same with the other one, just fully compress that. As you can see, there's quite a few tabs and slots right there, and just align all those up and give it a good squeeze. Make sure everything is nice and tabbed into place. And now you can actually grab this entire panel right here on both sides, and then you're actually going to push this entire chest section up. See, this is the part where it's a bit hard when the arms are on, because you have to push this entire section up while the arms are still attached. So I find it a bit easier to have them off, so then you can easily grab this entire chest section and move this piece up like so. So how this is all tabbed in places, there is actually slots right there and tabs right there, and that was what's keeping it locked into place. And pretty much what you're just supposed to do is kind of push these out and then just kind of hinge that section up. I just repeated it just so you would understand, because it's a bit of a fiddly process. But then you're going to grab the wheels and hinge these out. There is a tab right there and a slot on the inside of the wheel. Just tab that into place and tab that into place. You can then grab the head and push this section in until it clicks. You can then reattach the arms, unless if you do it your own way, they probably are still are already still attached. And then you can just get this other one, plug that on as well. And then there is a tab right there and a slot on that entire shoulder section, and that will just tab into place. Same with the other one, just tab that into place. You can then go to the entire leg section and just fold this all the way in. And it might mess up a few things. You just got to straighten up a few things. Just compress this entire section down. And then there's these small little tabs. You might not be able to see them, but there's some tabs on the inside of this section, and there's some slots on the inside of the arms, and those will just align up into place nice and securely. And do the other one like that, and it should end up something like this. You can then grab the entire car roof panel, and there is that post and port system, and you can just plug that into place like so. And that is pretty much it for transformation. Let's now take a look at the details. Here we have Magneous in his rock car alt mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, I like all those really nice gunmetal gray pin-ups for the entire front grille section. There was some really well sculpted rock work all over the entire figure, and I love how they didn't just reuse the same sculpting of the rocks over and over again, you know, for the front, the top, and the back. They actually did different designs and details for every area. Of course, you can see there's some that are like sticking out, there's some that are a bit more flat, a bit more rough, a bit more smooth. So overall, just such an amazing car. It's a very interesting concept of a car, like a car made out of rocks, but I actually kind of like it. I think it works. One thing I do like is these really cool spikes like sticking out the the side. There's actually some more on the other side or the opposite side of the car. And another detail I like is how the rocks are actually kind of growing or sort of built over the wheel. You can only see just a little bit of the wheel at the tip or kind of the edge there, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Of course, if you do look at the top, there's some more sticking out here. And they actually did take a couple design cues from the Kingdom line, as in there's actually quite a bit of texturing. There's actually some roughness. And it's not, super smooth or flat. There's actually some texturing. There's some, rocks, some crevices, some gaps and stuff. So that's really cool. I do love the windows. So they're actually kind of barred with some really nice silver detailing and outlining. And I think probably my least favorite area of this car is this entire back section here, which you probably already know why. It's just, it kind of ruins the look because you can obviously tell these are just like the front of the legs and the feet folded up. So, you can see all this really nice, amazing rock work. It looks, very interesting, like a rock car. And this kind of gives that away. It sort of shows that it's maybe unfinished, or it shows that it actually does transform. So that does kind of ruin the look for me. So it would have been nice if there was like a few extra panels of like rock pieces to cover this up. Then it definitely would have completed the look. But here is the top, here is the bottom, and it overall rolls pretty well. As for what type of wheel they used, I'm actually not 100% sure, because as I said, a lot of the wheels are pretty much completely covered up. Since this is a deluxe, I would assume they're probably mushroom peg, because they really only use like the nice pin wheels for like the commander classes and sometimes the leader classes. So most likely all four wheels are mushroom peg. But as for accessory storage, you actually can store the pickaxe or the crossbow in two different ways. So one way is actually utilizing this entire back section here. There is two slots and there is two tabs on the weapon, and those just align up and it just sits right there nice and securely. I think that looks pretty cool in my opinion. And as for the next way, this one's definitely a bit more crazy. This is more of the simple way if you don't want something, standing out too much. But if you do remove the crossbow or the pickaxe and put that off to the side for just a sec, you actually can remove these two back panels here. And how everything was tabbed in places, there is two tabs and of course two corresponding slots, these middle ones. And you can just remove that from the back. Then you actually want to separate it. And as you can see, there are several tabs and slots and how everything was combined together. And then you can pull out the crossbow or pickaxe and you use that huge tab there and that slot, and that's just going to align up and tab into place. Same goes with the other one, just tab that into place. And there is a post and a port at that grill section there, and you can just align that up. And there we have this huge, like a battering ram or hammer at the front of the car, which I think is just so crazy. And you can pull off some really cool poses and pictures with this. I probably won't display Magneous like this, but I definitely think it's a very fun playable feature. But that is pretty much it for accessory storage. Now for some quick alt mode comparisons. Here he is with the Voyager class Thundertron, and his separate review is coming very soon on the channel. Make sure you stay tuned for that. And I think they look pretty cool side by side. And now for one final comparison, here he is with another Deluxe from Legacy United Wave 1, that being a Chase, and his separate review is up on the channel right now. If you missed that, make sure you go check it out after this one. And that is pretty much it for comparisons and this rock car alt mode. Let's now get down to reverse transformation. So now for reverse transformation, what I would advise to do is remove all the accessories and put them off to the side. And if you did watch the normal transformation from robot to alt mode, as you probably saw, I did the transformation a bit different than how Hasbro showed it in the instructions. And if Hasbro would put the reverse transformation in the instruction booklet, I probably would still do it different than how they show it. So what I would advise to do is remove the entire top car piece. Technically, you don't have to do that. I just think it is a bit easier to actually add some extra clearance and space to work around. It is a pretty big piece, and of course you can always just add it at the end of the transformation later on. If you don't like to parts form, if you want all the pieces on there for the transformation, that's perfectly fine. This is just how I like to do it. So you can just wiggle this entire panel off and put that off to the side, and how that was attached or connected to the figure was the typical post and port system. You can then flip to the underside of the alt mode. You're just going to disconnect the entire arm like that. We're not going to transform the arm just yet. We're most mostly focusing on the legs. That's typically what I would do first. You're just going to want to loosen this because, of course, this is actually keeping the legs locked into place. So you kind of have to do this step first. And how this is tabbed in is there's a small slot right there and a tab right there. You really don't have to put this in any particular space or area. Just kind of keep it separated from the legs. You can flip to the other side of the car and, of course, to the bottom. Again, just disconnect the entire arm right there. And then you can grab the legs and just fully extend and bring out the entire legs like that. And you'll probably feel a pretty big thud or kind of jolt with the legs. That means they kind of locked into place into that groove that they're meant to be for the robot mode. And then you can split at the entire middle section. And then, of course, you can grab the foot, hinge this entire section down on that hinge. Same with the other one, just hinge this entire section down like so. You can then grab the shoulder, hinge this entire section out, then you can move the arm out. You can then grab the hand. It's on a ball joint. You're just going to hinge this section in, and then, of course, rotate at the wrist. And I would keep them out just to have some space to work with. And then again, same with the other one, just grab the shoulder, move the arm out, then you can grab the hand, push this in, rotate at the wrist, and now we have the arms all done. You're then going to grab the head and push this entire section up like that, and then you can grab the wheels. You're just going to fold these in, and how these are tabbed into place is there is a tab right there and there is a slot on the inside of the wheel. Fold that in, and same with the other one. Grab this piece here, fold this in like so, and then you're just going to shift this entire section in until it will click into place like that. And it's a bit hard to show because it's such a tight space, but how this all locked into place is it kind of tabbed into the back and also with the shoulders. So there was a slot on the inside of the shoulder that tabs into a tab pretty much on this entire chest piece. It would be nice if I could show it, a bit more detail, but again, it's a very tight, small space. But let me just quickly straighten up the figure. But as for the very last step, you're just going to grab this entire backpack panel piece right here, tab that on, and that is pretty much it for reverse transformation. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. So now for my final thoughts on the Transformers Legacy United Infernac Universe Deluxe class Magneous. So Magneous is the first Deluxe class, a part of a gimmick subline in Legacy United of rock-based figures, kind of like how in Legacy Evolution there were the Junkions. Starring in the remote, I love Magneous' design with the amazingly well-sculpted rock work done in a really nice charcoal black, and the nice bright yellow paint apps for the eyes, which make the figure look all the more scary and menacing. Accessory-wise, the figure includes one weapon that can act as a pickaxe or a crossbow. Magneous also has a bit of customization option where you can actually change the position of a few rock panels to make the figure look different if you want to get multiple copies. Transformation is very simple and fun, but could honestly have more steps because this is a modern day deluxe from 2023 or 2024, and it's only 10 steps. Tolerances for the most part are really good. My main problem is when transforming the figure, some of the panels and hinges are way too tight on my copy, and I'm really worried about causing damage to the figure. As for Magneous' alt mode, it's an interesting concept. It's basically a car made out of rocks, but you can store the pickaxe weapon at the back of the car, or you can also actually attach pieces from the figure onto the weapon to form this huge battering ram. What do you think of this figure? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.